She pulled up in a luxury car that gleamed under the sun, a symbol of her wealth and arrogance. A crowd had gathered when the engine sputtered and died. With a smirk, the female CEO looked at the black mechanic standing nearby, his overalls stained with grease, his hands rough from years of labor. Loud enough for everyone to hear, she sneered, "Fix this engine and I'll marry you." Laughter erupted, echoing like cruel applause. But behind her mockery, she had no idea who she was dealing with. Because sometimes the people we underestimate are the ones destined to change the story forever. The mechanic's name was David. He had grown up on the rough side of town, raised by a single mother who worked nights just to put food on the table. From an early age, David discovered a gift with his hands. While other kids were chasing footballs in the street, he was piecing together broken radios, old bicycles, and finally, car engines pulled from junkyards. By the time he was 25, David had a reputation. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was an artist of steel and oil. Cars that others declared dead, he revived with patience and precision. His workshop was small, just a tin-roofed garage at the edge of the city, but to David it was a cathedral where metal found new life. Meanwhile, the CEO, Vanessa, lived in a different world altogether. She was born into privilege, the daughter of a powerful real estate mogul. At 32, she had inherited her father's empire, running it with ruthless confidence. People admired her success but whispered about her arrogance. She had little patience for those she saw beneath her, especially working-class men like David. Their worlds collided one hot afternoon when Vanessa's luxury car broke down outside a corporate event. She stepped out in designer heels, furious that her engine betrayed her in front of business partners and journalists. When David offered help, she laughed, her words dripping with sarcasm. "If you can fix my car, maybe I'll marry you." The crowd chuckled, cameras clicked, and Vanessa smirked, thinking she had humiliated him. But David didn't flinch. He wiped his hands, looked at the smoking engine, and silently decided that this wasn't just about fixing a car. It was about dignity. David opened the hood and the laughter grew louder. The engine was a mess. Luxury cars weren't like old sedans. They required specialized tools, diagnostic systems, and factory knowledge. "He'll never manage it," someone whispered. Vanessa crossed her arms, her expression smug, as though the bet was already won. But David wasn't just another mechanic. Years of experience had taught him how to listen to engines like doctors listen to heartbeats. He leaned closer, studying the failure. A broken timing chain, a cracked ignition coil, problems that looked catastrophic but not impossible. Sweat trickled down his forehead as he worked, and the crowd shifted from amusement to intrigue. Vanessa checked her watch, rolling her eyes as if his efforts were wasting her time. But David didn't look up. Every twist of the wrench, every adjustment of the gears was deliberate. He thought of his mother, who used to say, "Son, they may laugh at you, but never let them doubt what you can do." Minutes turned into an hour. The sun blazed, and the CEO's patience thinned. "He's wasting his time," someone murmured, but another voice countered, "Look how focused he is." Slowly, the mockery faded. People leaned in, captivated. David worked through cuts on his knuckles, through the ache in his back, through the weight of knowing this was about more than metal. It was about respect. Finally, he replaced the last piece, closed the hood, and stepped back. His chest rose and fell heavily, grease staining his shirt like battle scars. He turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth, powerful, and flawless. The crowd gasped. Phones went up, cameras flashed. In that moment, David wasn't just a mechanic. He was a master who had done the impossible. Vanessa's smile faltered. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The bet she had made in arrogance had backfired spectacularly. The people who once laughed with her now stared in silence. Some even applauded. But David didn't look at her. He simply wiped his hands, turned toward the crowd, and walked away. To him, this wasn't about winning her bet. It was about proving that skill, dedication, and dignity could silence prejudice better than any argument. The sound of the engine still echoed when Vanessa realized what had happened. She had tried to humiliate a man in front of dozens, but instead, she had humiliated herself. Her words, meant as a cruel joke, now clung to her like chains. David's quiet triumph spread quickly. Within hours, videos of the moment went viral. Headlines painted her as the arrogant CEO who mocked a hard-working black mechanic and got humbled in front of the world. Board members questioned her judgment, clients whispered about her arrogance, and public opinion turned sharp. Meanwhile, David's life began to change. Calls poured into his small garage. Strangers drove across town not because their cars were broken, but because they wanted to shake his hand. To them, David wasn't just a mechanic. He was a symbol of dignity standing tall against arrogance and racism. For Vanessa, the fallout was brutal. She had built her empire on power and pride, but in one careless moment, she had exposed her prejudice to the world. She tried to laugh it off, but the internet never forgets. What was meant to belittle David had instead elevated him, and in doing so reminded everyone of the destructive power of casual racism. The irony was undeniable. The woman who said, "Fix my car and I'll marry you," had watched her own reputation break down while David rebuilt not only her engine but his own standing in society. In the weeks that followed, David's garage became more than just a workplace. It became a symbol. People came not only for car repairs but for inspiration. Young men who once doubted their worth looked to him as proof that skill and perseverance could break through barriers of prejudice. David never gloated. When asked about the incident, he only said, "Respect is earned in silence, not in shouting. That day I didn't fix a car for her. I fixed a lie she told about me without even knowing it." Vanessa, on the other hand, faced a lesson she could not ignore. Her empire survived, but her reputation carried a permanent scar. She had been forced to face the truth. Arrogance can buy luxury, but it cannot buy respect. The story became more than just a viral moment. It became a mirror for society. How many times do we judge someone's worth by the stains on their shirt instead of the strength of their hands? How often do we laugh at someone's struggle, forgetting that struggle is what shapes greatness? David returned to his garage, the same man but with a louder voice through the silence of his actions. And in that silence lay the most powerful lesson of all. Dignity doesn't need an audience, but when the world finally sees it, they can never unsee it. So the next time someone tries to belittle another because of their race, their job, or their clothes, remember David. Remember the man who turned laughter into respect, who turned arrogance into humility, and who proved that skill and dignity will always outlast mockery. And I ask you this, how many Davids have we ignored, laughed at, or underestimated in our own lives? And how different would the world look if we chose respect first? Stories like David's remind us that dignity and respect can silence even the loudest prejudice. If this story touched you, subscribe for more powerful stories that uncover truth, justice, and humanity. Don't just watch, be part of the change.